it's Rebecca. Welcome to Returning, a podcast to return to yourself and the wisdom within. I'm so glad you're here with me. Thanks for returning. So today I am returning with Danette May. Danette is a health and wellness author. She's a motivational speaker, and I've known her for many years. Her journey really began after facing personal tragedies, including the loss of a child and a failed marriage, which led her to discover her healing through mindfulness, nutrition, and exercise. You'll quickly notice how Danette is really someone who is so driven by passion and such a deep calling. I find being in Danette's presence just super inspiring, and just like it really does tend to those passionate fires within. Like, yes, I can go and do this. Like, just go for the dream, really go big, live big. So I also want to just say a quick word of caution. We do briefly discuss, both of us, child loss, miscarriage and bereavement. So yeah, if this is a sensitive topic for you, just, trust what is right for you right now. I know how precious your time is, so let's jump right into opening sacred space together. So in the center of your heart, imagine a beautiful flower, and invite that flower to open petal by petal, revealing a light in the middle. This light is your soul, your ancient wise self. Invite it to step forward now. And together, let's acknowledge the keepers and custodians and spirits of the land where you are and I am too, known and unknown. Beautiful. Let's begin. Oh, Danette, so nice to connect. I know that it's been a while since I think last time we were properly connected, we were in maybe New York together.
We were.
And when I feel your energy and think about you, Danette, I always just feel like such a connection to a soul sister and someone who, I think you're so inspiring in the sense of your energy feels so positive and just yeah, let's just go do it and live life, and I can create anything and all of this. And yet at the same time, and I think this is the thing that I really admire about you and respect about you, is your ability to go to the depths as well. And you're definitely someone who has experienced the extremes of life. And I think that perhaps it's is it those extremes that you've lived that allow you the courage to just go and truly live?
Thank you. Wow. And that just sums up you. You're just so awesome. And just even the prayer before this began, I was yes, we deal with this world and we have tech and we have these things, but the truth of us is connecting on a soul level. So thank you for that.
And from I'm interested, if we were to learn a little bit more about you, what were you like as a little girl that would kind of shed a little bit of light into who you really are, whether it's as a soul or just today as a woman?
Yeah, I'm always rediscovering that little girl. I feel like that's my work all the time, is who is she at the fundamental level? Because I definitely know the highlights that I can remember. I grew up, thankfully, what we would call a mini farm. And we had 100 sheep at one time around there.
Wow.
And chickens and dogs and cats. And I even got to sometimes when the baby sheep were born, the moms would pass on. And so then the babies and we'd have to bottle feed them so they would imprint on you, and I would have them follow me around the yard. I even had a duck that we rescued that was my friend, imprinted on me, and I would literally have pictures of me. And I remember it vaguely, but sliding down my little slide in my backyard with the duck on my lap, and we'd swim together. This was my upbringing, and I think I couldn't have asked for a better upbringing in that regard, because I do feel so connected to nature and animals, and we lived out in the country. I could go out. I remember I just would put on boots and go outside and be with the animals all day. And I would sit on the fence and I would sing to them, which I should do more of that, more singing. That's just bringing that up. But that little girl that likes being outside, loves being with animals, connecting with their spirits, and really feeling that I was connecting with their spirits. I feel like they really understood my songs. And yeah,
Mm.
that girl that was also very adventurous. I was raised with four brothers, no sisters, so I wanted to be included in all of it. And so I was very adventurous. I would try anything. My brothers told me to eat ants, and so I sat and ate a lot of ants. Like I would do whatever to fit in with the boys and to like quite adventurous. Yeah.
Amazing. And do you have a memory of being young and kind of like feeling like you came here for a reason, or like did you have any connection with your soul or mission or anything back then?
Yes. So
Mm.
you're really good with questions. I've had no one ask me that, and I was
Well,
curious your answer too, because I always wonder if people feel this. Because as a little girl, I used to tell my parents, because my dad had this truck, and the trucks back in the day were just one long seat, and no one wore seatbelts, so I'd just be smashed in between my parents, and if they would listen, because everybody was busy, that was my time to share. And I always told them that I was going to bring people to the mountains and bring them back to nature.
mm,
And I didn't
no
say it in an
way.
eloquent way as a little girl, but I was talking about working with lots of women. And I always could see that I was going to work with lots of women. And that sounds so big as a little kid, but I did have those thoughts. And I remember feeling, and I'm curious if every kid feels this way, but feeling really special and really known and really loved. And I knew everyone was special, but I felt like a creator knew me, and I've never questioned it, even in my really difficult times. And I've had a lot of followers write in and feel they've been forsaken, or why would a creator do this? I don't even know if I believe in a creator. And for me, there's never been a doubt. I've always felt the presence and felt a divine love, even in hardship.
Mm. And do you feel like it was something you learned or something you just like innately knew or a little bit of both?
I think we innately know these things as children, but one thing my parents did teach me was to pray and to have my own connection with a power outside of myself. And I am grateful for that. And so I do remember every night. And granted, like I grew up in a very busy household. I was the youngest of four brothers. We lived on a farm. My dad worked, and prayer time was when they would actually come in your bedroom and kneel at your bed with you as you said your prayer. They didn't force what you said, but they were always like, you have connection through your words and through your thoughts to a higher power. You can pray about anything. And so it was never a set prayer. It was always whatever you want to say. If you want to just say thank you, if you want to ask for something, you can do it. And so I think that connection was built at a very young age.
And what do you think that brought you? Like, was it like safety or like limitlessness?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it creates this, and I think about my life today, and something I've really been sharing with close people, and I'll share it here is, I really look up to the stars a lot, and I think about the galaxies and the stars, and if this exists outside of us, well, we're connected to this. Like, what is our potential, and where do we really come from? And I think with just that feeling, which probably was as a kid, but not as intellectual as I am now as an adult, but it makes me feel like I cannot do it wrong. I never feel like the hard things are going to be the end of me. I just feel like they're steps in this evolution. And I think it's because of that connection. And also, I feel like I can, if I feel it and I dream it and I want to try it, why not?
Mm, amazing. And like I know you've spoken openly about like rock bottom moments and like serious hardships that you've been through.
Mhm.
Um, did they initiate your calling in the world or
Mhm.
a bit of both? Like did it come after?
Yeah, I think what happens for a lot of us humans is we're trucking down this path and we have our refiner's moment. And it can come like a lot of different things, but it's the part in our lives where things get really heated up and it gets hot and it gets uncomfortable and it just peels back layers that have been laid on for you to get to your true character. And for me, it was really the loss of my son. I 100% attribute me even having a conversation with you, me being a Hay House author, me doing the things I do because a lot of his passing. And it led me down a different pathway because I was going down a path at the time of really tuning off my intuition. And I was just kind of going through the motions, believing what I thought I was supposed to believe because people told me to believe it. I was doing the decisions that I thought that, because we are on autopilot if we're not aware. Like we walk the path that maybe our parents walked or what we think we're supposed to be walking. And his passing shook me to the core to where I looked at my whole life and I was like, I'm so sad that I don't even care if I disappoint my parents or my religion. I'm dismantling this all because I've got to really know who Danette is and I need to start listening to my intuition.
And when that did happen, when you lost him, did you feel connected to Creator, God, or like was it just like what the hell?
Yeah, and I want to say this carefully because there are a lot of people who might listen to this episode and go, I've lost a child or I've lost a loved one and I didn't have this experience. And I want to just preface before I share my experience that if your experience in your mind was messy or really hard or didn't feel connected, nothing's wrong with that and nothing's wrong with you. And it's it was just an experience. And I just encourage anyone to really look at what the message might be and what the path might be. And I also want to speak on that I don't believe now that I've had the passing of my son and now more loved ones. And also when I was 12 years old, my boyfriend at the time committed suicide and wrote me a letter. So I've dealt with death in different realms. And I don't believe that when someone passes on, it's done. I actually really believe that you can almost have them more in your life than ever before in a whole beautiful new way. And so I want to say all that. But for me, obviously when you're in the trauma, and I remember being in the hospital, they're like, you're having this baby and everybody's moving quite quick and I'm just kind of in shock, and there's beeping and you're in this white sterile room. And I just remember this moment where the nurse, even this doctor who I'd seen numerous times because I have high risk pregnancies, always seemed very analytical, very scientific. He almost moved like an angel. He even started to speak more like an angel. And I felt like all the nurses in there took on almost this angelic aura. And I remember just being like, this is the most traumatic thing that's happening, but I can feel angels in here. It kind of tears me up. And I could see it in the embodiment of them. And so I knew I wasn't alone and I was going to have this little boy and most likely never bring him home. And, but I felt a peace. And I remember even my ancestors feeling like my ancestors were there that I'd never met, but I'd heard about as a young girl, and feeling like there was an energy swirling. And I couldn't deny that. I was sad, of course, and I was going through something very difficult, but I will never forget that. And I knew that it was all orchestrated beyond my understanding at the
Mm,
time.
mm. And did you have much time with him when he
No, he was
holding
born
him? Mm-hmm.
and basically they took him immediately. And then the doctor came in without him and sat down by my side. This very, like I said, analytical, very scientifically, very dry man, all literally became what I thought was an angel, sitting down beside me, telling me that my son was not going to be with me and that he could bring him in and I could hold him. And I have no doubt those nurses loved on him and dressed him. They put a little hat on
Mm,
him and wrapped him and brought him
mm,
to me so I could hold him in that room. And they just were super angelic. That's all I can say about that. It was just a really eye-opening, profound, very sad, but also um, I felt held in the experience.
mm. Wow. I can't even imagine that experience on so many different levels and like even just like you know, like you've obviously gone on to experience birth again. But like that portal of birth and death is just like they're just so opposite, but so together at the same time as well. I can't like
Yeah.
wow, that
Yeah. I know you can kind of, as a mom, I mean, I think it doesn't matter what stage your child is, there's a grief and there's an emotion that comes with the passing of the human form and the things that we love. But I've learned that they're here, and I rather speak on that because to me, I think we're forgetting that, and we can get caught up in the loss or the feeling of the loss when I'm like, actually, it's just a transition. And if we can really truly understand this, we start to go, oh, in this passing, and even an animal can feel like this, that they're
right.
with me more than they ever could be in the physical form.
And did you feel his spirit like from that moment on, and you still do? Like, do you have a relationship
1000%.
with him in that way? Yeah.
Yeah, and even with my children, like my oldest
Yeah.
daughter was 4 at the time, not really knowing what's going on, right? But we would find her lots of times in the middle of the night talking, and we'd get out of our bed and she'd be drawing and like laying in her bed in the middle of the night with her little lamp on drawing. And she would say, because we named him Hap, short for happy, because my great grandpa, that was
Oh.
his nickname, Hap.
Oh.
So we named him Hap. And she said, oh,
No.
Hap and I are drawing right now. And I'm like, you're drawing with
Wow.
Hap? And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm drawing with Hap. And so, and she'll to this day, now she's 20. She's 20. That's
Oh
weird
my
to say.
God.
She's like,
So
he
amazing.
would visit me all the time, Mom. She's like, he would visit me in my room playing. He would visit. And this is kind of an interesting spiritual side note. So obviously, when you have a baby, you don't have you don't have your body's out of whack. You don't have your period. You don't know like when your body's normal. It takes a while.
Yeah.
And I remember Sarah, she's 4 years old, and she's setting the table and she's setting an extra spot. And I go, who's that for? And she goes, oh, Hap, he's coming back. And I was like, oh, she's really like struggling with this. Like even like 5 months later, this girl's struggling with it. And I would go pick her up from preschool and the teachers would be like, we heard you're having another baby. Congratulations. Can you imagine? I was like, I'm not having another baby. Sarah's really struggling with the pass of her brother. She's not understanding. Well, of course, I don't have my period because I've had this baby like 5 months ago. My
Yeah.
hormones are out of balance. And I literally have only had sex one time. So this is what's so crazy is I go to the doctor because I'm like, my body's just, I'm like sick. I'm nauseous. I don't know what's going on. And he goes, you're pregnant. And I was like, I'm pregnant? And he goes, yeah. He's like, and then they start doing the ultrasound and they're like, and we're estimating the due date January 17th, which is the day he passed. And I was like, what is going on? So my daughter knew this before I even knew this.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. I'm also having a bit of a moment here, Danette, because I miscarried in between my son and my daughter, and her due date was the day that she passed as well.
Oh, I had
But
chills.
literally.
I have chills because I'm kind of in
Wow.
curiosity of these souls exiting and almost coming
Yeah.
in like twins in a way.
Whoa. And do you, whoa.
I
Oh,
know.
kind of want to keep that silence going for a little bit. Wow.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. And I mean, you know, it's a great mystery, right? The whole thing. But like, do you have you wondered, do you sense that he did come back or
At the time, I didn't like my belief systems doesn't like didn't support that theory. Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
like that's a soul and then another soul. But what's been very interesting is my daughter, and I'm curious if you feel this with your daughter.
Hmm.
Um, it's almost like this one that came at the same time that he was passing. Um, things are a little easier for her. Like, there's almost a psychic ability also in this child. And she also, as a little baby, obviously, we didn't really talk about the passing of her brother who was older than her, that who she never even had an experience with, but she would talk about him when she was very little,
Whoa.
which I always thought was a little interesting too. And it's been of recent that I've had conversations with her as a teen now that she's older, asking her if she feels an energy with her all the time. And she told me that, and I'm feeling into if she's okay with me sharing, and I think she's fine with me sharing this with everyone. But she said that she's always felt him, always, even when she was little. And she said as she's gotten older, she's felt this presence with her constantly. And I said, do you think that there's almost like a twin energy within you, like another? And she's like, 100%. I feel like
Whoa.
she's like, if you look at my body, one side has moles, the other side doesn't. She's like, my body is so split.
Oh,
And I'm like,
wow.
that's fascinating.
Yeah, wow. It's
So
so
we don't know, but
interesting.
and either way, I don't know if it really matters. I just know that
No, of course not.
it's
Of
here.
course
Yeah.
not. But
Yeah, I don't have
that's
to have
so
the answers.
amazing. The due date, this, yeah, wow. Because for me, that was I, I don't know why it actually mattered, but it just felt like such a beautiful blessing sign. I don't even know of what,
Yes.
but yeah, wow.
Well, I
Wow.
really love because I haven't met someone else who've had that same experience. So I find these souls very fascinating that exit, come in. Because if you think about it, probably our daughters would not be coming in at the time they did had the other one not exited.
100%. And I also like the way I experienced the miscarriage as well, because it was fairly late on. Um, there was so much motherline healing that kind of happened as a result of that.
Hmm.
And my daughter, I mean, she's still really young. She's like 9 months, right? So I know she'll change. But one thing that is like so unique about her, and this is going to sound like I'm just like saying this like as her mum who's obsessed with her, which I am,
I
but I
know.
have had more than one kid, so, and he is not like that, but not, he's fantastic in a different way. But everyone says this about her. She has this like essence of joy. Like she just like is just like pure joy. Like even when she cries, like it was just so opposite of what my son was like. It was like an alarm going off constantly. But when she cries, it's like almost like she's like really sorry for crying because she just wants to be happy. And she's just pure joy nectar. And I so much I healed such a lot in that year, and I don't like I don't know if I'd be able to like hold her. And yeah, do you know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
so I do think that they take on a lot in the womb, like in our cells and our waters. And um yeah, she came out, and my big wish for her was like that her nervous system was regulated, and that mine was too. And it happened, and I don't think it would have happened had I not lost that baby before her.
So, you're right. There is a healing that happens in our, what we want to call our tragedy. There can be this, an avenue for deep, profound, new ways of understanding.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I love how you touched on how these like rock bottom moments, or moments that crack you open and kind of, crumble the external around you. It's like they you was I forget how you put it, but it reminded me of this thing of like you just don't have the strength to rely on control and will and trying to make things happen. So you're just like, well, if it's even worth it, I'm just going to go for it. So there's this like blessing that happens in the cracked open, because the willpower and the ego is just like, I'm out of here, forget that.
Yeah, and you
Is that
stop
how you
caring
experienced
so
it?
yeah, you stop caring so much about how you're perceived because you've already feel
Mm,
like you've crumbled wide open.
experience the
You're like,
worst.
here I am in my raw, depressed, gnarly self.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so for someone who's going through like a rock bottom or just a challenging period in their life, like what would you say to them?
It's when you're in those moments, it's hard to hear someone talking to you. But if you are listening, I would advise you to understand or to at least seek for the message or I don't even want to like to say lesson because you didn't necessarily create it, but to really look for where's this gift in this? Where is the message, the gift? And you don't have to always understand, but there is a divine path that's at play that some of us will never know in this lifetime, and we just have to lean in and trust. But I do know this, that every person that I've ever researched that I admire, from Rebecca to anyone that I've admired, they go through these adverse times in their life that molds them into the person that I admire. And the person listening right now, you're no different. And it's going to mold you into a true character if you allow it. And you're going to learn and grow infinitely from this experience.
Mm, I love it. So I want to know if you're up for it. Like, how are you changing right now?
How am I changing right now?
Mm.
I'm changing a lot right now. I'm actually in a lot of change right now. Um, I just read this thing yesterday about how if you think about the Big Bang or the universe, and there's this almost like this compression that has to happen for this massive, beautiful event to occur. And I am noticing right now because I have this dream on my heart that's been here for like 6 years, and the vision's become really clear, but it requires a new identity. It requires me
Mm.
to dive in deeper into my worth. It requires me to dive into a new identity of who Danette is and be cool with that identity. And it requires being seen even in a different way or more, however my brain wants to interpret that. And so that's my change is I do a lot of journaling on who's Danette's identity at this point, and what because I know we're all light, but at the same time we're in this world of like we get to create. And so it's taking on this identity of what do I want to create.
Oh, I'm excited to see what comes.
Yeah, it'll be
Mm.
very soon, actually.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. And yeah, you've had your podcast for how long now?
Hasn't been a year yet. It
Oh my
launched.
gosh, so it's so new
Yeah,
still. Are
and
you loving it?
I'm actually loving it. I rarely do via the computer anymore. But with
Mm-hmm.
you, I wanted to connect this way because you live in the UK, I'm here. So those are exceptions, but I really love in person connecting in this way. I'm shocked I actually love it as much as I do. Um, I feel that it's such a great way to really get to a deeper conversation. So yeah, I'm loving it. Are you loving it? Curious
Yeah,
if
I am. It's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but I'm, yeah. Uh, but it's, I think the reason I was mainly called to do it was, I don't know about you, but I find like particularly over the past like 5 or so years, I've been changing so much and going through such a lot. And I know my path isn't to kind of just put on a social media live and just do a blow by blow account. Like my work's more kind of channeled, and then once I've processed, I might share my story. Yeah.
Mhm.
So but I felt like because short form content was just like that, like I couldn't connect deeply with people, and I really wanted to.
Yeah.
And the podcast has been so rewarding in the sense of like I feel like I can just like talk to people like they're my friends, like as in real time, rather than it being like this teaching, you know? Have
Yeah.
you found similar?
Yeah, totally. Like because I like have so many questions about people and like what drives them and why they do what they do. And so it allows that space to just ask the questions that I want to ask. So yeah, I agree with you. I think also, do you ever feel like this too? I don't know how many team members you have around you, but the company, our company anyway, like once got so big with so many email followers and so many employees, sometimes I feel like my voice gets lost in it because we have so many people working with my voice to interpret my voice, interpret my thoughts out. And so like either whether it's social media or email. And I feel like podcast is just, it's me. So it's a
Yeah.
place where I can be, but I do feel vulnerable on this platform, which is really kind of
Do
interesting.
you? Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh, I
feel
wouldn't have
vulnerable.
thought that.
Yeah, I
Wow.
do.
What is it that makes you vulnerable, do you think? Like on the
Well,
platform?
there's moments when I'm like, ooh, I said that. And
Yeah,
also
yeah,
there's
yeah.
moments inside of me that I don't say what I kind of want to say. Um,
Eh.
Still playing with feeling more comfortable to really speak about what I want to speak on my podcast.
Mm,
And I always am really honest with like when someone's interviewing me, but sometimes I just want to like
mm,
let it rip. I want to say all the things. And you're a person who
mm.
channels. Do you ever get like vulnerability hangover that you might have said
Oh my God,
too much in
totally.
the channel? You're like,
Totally. Oh, but yeah, and I think even like with doing the podcast, I knew there were a couple of things. Like I did an episode on my miscarriage, for example, like it's called Speaking the Unspeakable. And because I hadn't properly shared what had happened, because I didn't want to just put it on a post on social media.
right.
I mentioned that it happened, but I had a lot that I wanted to share, but not teach on it. And so I remember I was quite close. I think Goldie was maybe 6 weeks old or something. And this one morning, I just woke up and I knew I needed to speak it. And so I do most of my episodes like film in the studio, but this particular one, I just didn't want to like I have to put on my makeup in order to
Totally. You just were
say
ready to
anything, you
go.
know, just go with it. And so this morning, and I've done a couple of episodes like this where I literally picked up my phone and just spoke. Like that was all I did. And I just spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke. And then, it needed a bit of editing, but in the end, like it's amazing how good quality actually the iPhone is.
It's true.
You go through all the microphones and then
And you're like, wow, that turned out great. But I love that you can just
exactly.
speak. And like you said, it's you speaking and sharing, not teaching. You're just
Right.
sharing an
Yeah.
experience as human to human, you know? That's cool.
So true. So true. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to end with the question we ask all of our listeners, which is what returns you to the wisdom within?
What returns me to the wisdom within?
Mm-hmm.
Easy for me to speak on this because nature is my place. Even this morning, I get up very early and I go out. The sun is not even up over the mountain, and I just like can see the skyline and I can hear the hummingbirds starting to come over to the waterfall. And just watching the hummingbirds once the sun rises, watching the sun as it rises. This is a practice for me that helps me go within, start the first thing, and then I put on my shoes and I go hiking and maybe dance at the top of the mountain because no one can watch me. And I feel like nature brings me within. And I know that people might talk on meditation, but for me, there was a time when I was in nature and I had my cacao and I was like, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going in. I'm going to have this experience, right? And I'm like out in nature and I'm drinking my cacao and I'm like getting ready to meditate and close my eyes. And I remember just spirit going, open your eyes, open your eyes. And I was like, I open my eyes and of course it's beautiful. It's nature. It's a river. There's trees, there's blue sky, there's birds. And the feeling that I had in that moment was, this is it. This is be here because this is your within. This reflection you're seeing is your within. And that was really profound for me.
I so hear you. Yeah, sacred is literally all around us, isn't it? Bless you. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Tell everyone where we can find you. Obviously, your amazing podcast, Manifestable.
Yeah, you guys can follow me there. Website, DanetteMay.com, or social if that's your thing. But podcast, like Rebecca and I were saying, it's us. And this is where we're sharing as a friend on the podcast.
Soul Inquiry is a practice where we listen to our soul, our inner wise self. So today's Soul Inquiry prompt is, what are you clinging to for fear of nothing coming to take its place? What are you clinging to for fear of nothing coming to take its place? And once you have this, I want you to commit to one little baby step you can take, just edging your way in that direction today. All right. Well, I'm so grateful for you being here with me and Danette. And I want to say, if you'd like to keep returning to yourself and returning here with me, then please, please, please hit subscribe. And if you love this podcast, I so appreciate you leaving a review or a 5-star rating. It so helps others find it too. You can, of course, find all the show notes and anything else about this information about Danette or our conversation over at rebeccacampbell.me/podcast. Thank you for returning.